Greetings, 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 everyone. Steve, Paracord's of Kindness. How you doing today? Hopefully your weaving's been happy. Okay, what I got for you today is by special request. I'm going to show you how I weave and stitch a modified Sanctified covenant. Here's some examples of one I made. This one right here is maroon, blackish gray, and charcoal gray stitching done on a maroon buckle. Here's one, black, anthracite, and charcoal gray stitching on a black silicone buckle. This is the one that everybody saw and wanted me. How do you do that? These colors look great together. Midnight blue, smoke gray, gold on a brushed brass buckle to accentuate the gold. Here's one I did. This was kind of an experiment, but it turned out pretty well. I ordered some Celtic shackles, and I don't work with these very much, but I ordered these because I figured the Celtic motif would go pretty well with this bead, the dragon bead. And just so everybody knows, the holes are orientated this way, so I had to turn it. And the holes are smaller than 550, so there was a challenge in and of itself. But this one is, let's see, what is this? Silver gray, jade green, and passion pink. This one looks really well. And surprisingly, the bead is on there pretty securely. And this one's not going to sit up straight, so I'm going to just lay it down. But the one we're going to be working on today is an autumn or fall theme. My wife loves these colors. Made this one for her, making this one for her. This one is going to be on a brown safe lock buckle or tactical buckle, generically referred to. And this is done in rust, fox orange, and goldenrod. And this one turned out really well. Really, really well. But if you want to see how I do this, with all the tips and tricks that my channel is known for, stick around because we'll get right to it, folks. Okay, weavers, I'm set up, and we're going to start weaving in just a second. Let's see. First things first. My channel, shameless plug. Stitched Anaconda. In basically the same color theme we're going to go with today, an autumn theme. But I'll leave the link to the tutorial for this in the cards and the description below. Okay, let's see. Credit where credit's due. Actually, I don't know who come up with this weave. I mean, it's basically a baby Sanctified or a 2-strand core Sanctified, and with some slight modifications to it. So I really don't know who would get credit for this weave and, you know, the Sanctified, basic Sanctified weave. I don't know. If anybody knows, put that in the comment below. I'd really like to know. Okay, let's see. Before we get into the technical specs, I'll say this. I had a friend of mine watching one of my tutorials, and I'm not sure if he commented in the comments of the video or if he got in touch with me, you know, Facebook, Messenger, whatever, on social media. But he said something about, he said, I'm waiting for you to give the measurements of all the cords. I'm going to say this like I told him. I normally don't give measurements in the video. Hence, look at the description below. The measurements will be down there. The cord lengths, the add to factor, all that stuff's below. And like I told him, and like I say often, there will most likely be other links to other things below. Now, normally when I make one of these videos, I kind of got a standard couple playlist I link, but if I mention stuff in videos, whether it's a tutorial video, but most often my What's in the Box videos, I'll put all kind of links down in the description. So always check the description of my videos. You know, any video on YouTube, but mine more so because I do put links down there. Okay, now, with that said, if I remember and if I can figure out how, I know it can be done, I'm going to break this video up into what do they call it on YouTube? Chapters, where you can look in the description and you can click and it'll take you immediately to that part of the video. Because I think I've had quite a few requests for how to do this. And I think more so, it's not necessarily the bracelet itself, because there's 1,000 videos out there showing you how to do this basic weave. I think what people want to know is how I do the stitching and the covenant spine, as I would call it, in the middle, because it's been stitched also. And I think that's the part that people want to see how I do. So with that said, I'm gonna try. I can't promise, but I'm gonna try to put the chapters, the timestamp chapters, in the description. You can click on it; it'll take you straight to that part. That way, you know, if you're not interested in this, you can skip over it. But now, with that said, okay, let's see. I'll show you a couple of these I've made. I've got one on right here that I've made, and this is maroon blackish gray, and the stitching, the micro cord, is in charcoal gray. And these are some of my favorite colors right here. I made a bracelet a while back in this color theme, and my wife, she does not like dark colors. And I made one, it wasn't this one, but it was a different weave, and she's like, oh, those colors look good together. And since I've been using this color combination, I've had quite a few people, no matter what weave it is, I've had quite a few people compliment on this color combination. And it does look good. And being that it's dark, I like it. Okay, now, with that said, let's see, I'll give some information on this. I'm going to show you kind of the evolution of this bracelet and the stitching of this bracelet, because I think that's what most people are interested in. I did one a while back. Okay, the one we're going, just so we know, so for clarity's sake, the one we're working on today is a 2-strand core. I think what a lot of people would refer to it as is a baby Sanctified. 2-strand core with a double cow hitch. If you don't know how to do that, look at the playlist, link to the playlist below, core setup playlist, or, you know, you can find one on YouTube. 2-strand core, double cow hitch, that's how you do this. Okay, but this is a 20 millimeter or a 3/4 inch equivalent buckle, and I'm doing it in, it's going to be one of these brown ones right here, like just like this. That's what we've got going on. Okay, now with that said, let's see. Okay, this one right here, this is a regular Sanctified, and it's done on a 4-strand core. And this, what is this? Like, oh, I forget what gray that is. It might be, is it charcoal gray or graphite? I can't remember specifically what gray this is. It's not smoke gray, it's darker than that. I think it may actually be graphite, I think is what it may be. But then the middle section is black with acid purple diamonds. And then I've stitched it in neon green. Okay. Now, like I said, this one was done on a 4-strand core. Basically, what that comes out to is it makes it a little thicker, a little bit wider. Not much, but it does. Okay. And I've done this quite often. And the stitching is the way I do this stitching on this 4-strand core, you can't quite see it, but what happens is it comes out in between these purples, kind of up here on this edge, and then when you run it back through to come out the front of the bracelet, you go right between those same 2 pieces of the black and purple. But what you're having to do, what I've done, is you're going in between the 2 core strands that are on this side, because you'll have 2 core strands on this side, 2 core strands on this side, and you got to get that stitching needle right between those 2 to get it to come out in the right spot for it to look the way it does. And I've tried it just wrapping it around both of those core strands on that side. Well, when it comes out on the front, it doesn't look right to me. The stitching doesn't look right. And I've done it this way for a long time. Well, I recently made one of these, and I did it on a 2-strand core. And I found out that the stitching, this same pattern of stitching, right, 2-strand core, 4-strand core, whatever, is a lot easier when you do it on a 2-strand core. This, it takes some time because you're trying to find your way through those two core strands that are on that side of the bracelet and on that side of the bracelet, and you can't see them because they're buried behind this piece. So you're having to like feel your way through, and it can be difficult and time consuming. Well, when I did it on this 2-strand core and I sat there and I messed with it, I'm like, oh gosh, so much easier. So that's the way I'm going to show you how to do it, because it's a lot easier. And it basically gives the same effect, right? And I'll show you some other ones I did. Like I said, this is a 4-strand core. This is not the modified version. This is basic Sanctified on a 4-strand core that I've stitched, right? I've got this one, like I just showed. This is a 2-strand core, and it has the modified edge to it, which is what we'll do today. If you look at it, you can see how the maroon, in this case, it flares out that edge, so it makes it a little bit wider, right? Now this one, if it was done that way, it would be this black and purple, would flare out just a little bit to give it a little bit extra width, right? And plus, when you do it that way, it makes the stitching easier also. All right, but that's that. Let's see, I'll show you these other ones I did. This is the one I did. This was for a customer. I haven't mailed it out yet, but this one is black anthracite, and the stitching is in charcoal gray. And this one was done on a black silicone buckle. Stainless steel buckle, but the coating, instead of being painted, it's coated in silicone. And it gives it this almost non-reflective glare, as opposed to some of these other ones that have, see how reflective that is? It's not as reflective. Right? But that's one I did. And you can see the back of it. Okay, now here's another one I did. And this is the one that I posted, I think, just yesterday. And this is the one that was like, everybody was like, oh man, you gotta do a tutorial for that. How do you do that? But this was on a brushed brass buckle, 20 millimeter. It's smoke gray, midnight blue, and gold. And these colors, people always compliment on these colors, and these colors look outstanding together. And this bracelet looks outstanding. But that's what we're going to be doing today. And if you notice, it has the flared out, the blue is flared out on the edge, right? Gives it that little extra width. And that's one of the things that makes this a modified, right? Okay, with all that said, like I said, it's a stitched, modified, Sanctified covenant. Both the Sanctified, the basic weave's been modified, and then the way I'm going to do the covenant center spine is modified too. So I guess you could say it's a double modified. But anyway, let's see, is that everything? Again, all the numbers, the cord length, add 2 fat, all that's down below. Look at the description, but down below. Okay, let's see. I think that's it. We'll just go ahead and get started. This one is not really a hard weave. It's really not. It looks really good, but it's not a hard weave. A lot of people would tell you, and I'll agree, this would be what people would say an advanced bracelet, because it's not a simple cobra. You have the 2 strands that are going to cross back and forth, and that gives you a framework in the middle. Not only do you have your core strands, but you have these 2 strands that are crossing over, that gives like rungs of a ladder, and that gives you a framework to build something on in the middle. And many, once you get the basics of this down, there are so many modifications to it of how you can do. If you've seen any of the dog collars people make, this is the basis for that. And the way all the middles look, like for example, I'll just show you a few of these quote-unquote dog collar weaves, which they're made for dog collars, but I've simply made them in human wrist bracelet size. I know I've got some more around here somewhere. Anyway, I don't see them off the top of my head. But at the core, These are nothing more than this. So once you kind of master this, there's all kind of stuff you can do. But this is like the beginner level of the advanced style bracelets. Does that make sense? This is a Nella's braided corner, and this is a Helmy's Indiana. I guess is how you would say that. I have no idea how you pronounce it. But this is a very wide one right here. But there we go. There we go. Okay, let's get started. Like I said, it's a 2-strand core on a double cow hitch. You know, you got even working ends of your main cord, and then your accent is also even. Okay, let's see. We'll get started. This one's not really hard. It's pretty basic. Most of you know how to do this, so I'll make this quick. All we're going to do is we're going to take our two. Here, let me zoom in. Zoom in so we can see this a little bit better. Yeah. Is that right? Yeah, that'll work. All we're going to do is we're going to take our two working ends. All right, you're going to take the one on the left, and it's going to cross over to the right side. And the one on the right, it's going to cross over to the left. Right? But we're going to interweave them between these core strands. And that's going to give us these rungs, this structure that we build on, right? So all we're going to do is we're going to take the one on the left, you're going to go under the first core strand and come out, over. That's all you're doing. And pull your slack through. I'm going to put my hand up here so hopefully you can see this. You're going under the first one, coming from this side, under the first one, and over that one right there. There we go. Now you can see it better. Right? Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Right? Now, we're going to take this one. We're going to go under the first core strand and then over the second one. Right? Now, under right here and then over the next one. I just pull your slack through. Now, be mindful. You'll see people in tutorials that do this weave, and most of the time they'll either mention it or they won't. But you see how this one is closer to the top. It's going in this slot. You have those two pieces in that slot, and this one is closer to the top, and this one is toward the bottom, right? It doesn't matter. It does not matter which way you do it. You can do it the other way. I get this set up so you can see. You can have this one on the top and this one on the bottom. It does not matter which way you do it. You'll see people do it. It doesn't matter. But I would suggest, no matter which way you do it, be consistent as you do the whole thing, right? So, if you do that one first and it's toward the buckle, and this one is toward the top buckle, and this side, let me rephrase all that for clarity's sake. The one on the left is on the top toward this buckle up here. The one coming from the right is on the bottom toward the buckle down there, right? Like I said, it doesn't matter. But whichever way you do it, whichever one you got on top and on bottom, be consistent as you do the whole bracelet. Now, does it really matter? Yes and no. It just depends, because not so much on this one, because you can't see it. But on your regular Sanctified, if you look, you can see where those two gray cords are crossing each other right down there in the middle. So, if you don't have it consistent, you'll be able to see it. But it's just a good habit. It's called consistency. It's a good habit to get into. No matter which one you put on top, just make sure it's always the one on top. Left on the top, left on top, left on top. Does that make sense? Now, like I said, when you put this covenant spine piece in there, it's going to cover it up and you're not going to see it. But it's a good habit to get into. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Okay, but there we go. We do that. Now, the next thing, we're going to take our accent piece. Doesn't matter which side. This is just kind of the way I've done it. Go from this side, and now what we're going to do is down here, below where these pieces cross, in the slot between the two cord strands, you're going to bring that piece up from around the back side. And I'm going to take it, and I'm going to put it through. Notice, this is where that modification, that flared out edge comes in. You go through this hole right here underneath both of these. And pull your slack through. Right? Now, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We'll bring this cord below where all this is, through the slot between those two cord strands, and this loop is created with both of these cords. Not like a regular Sanctified. Regular Sanctified, you would skip, you would go this way, right? But on this modified version, you're going to go through the loop through both of these cords. Make sense? You're going to just go under there and just pull your excess. I'm getting caught on something. Pull your excess through. And that's all there is to it. I mean, that's it right there. It's not that hard. Now, you just kind of give it a loose cinch. Take out the majority of your slack. Now, when you get right here, this is where the tightening up comes into play. This is the way I do it. I'll take my fingers and I'll push everything up. Right? Now, this first one's not going to do right. Kind of pull it. Kind of pull it. I kind of, get the majority of your slack out, right? Okay, now, that's not a loose cinch, but it ain't a tight cinch yet either, right? We'll get it up there like that now. Take your fingers and push them up, and then grab this one. And the way I always do this, like you've seen me do this, the way I do this, I'll put my thumb on the edge of the bracelet and use it to push off as I'm holding the cord in my hand and pulling it, right? That's what I'm doing. You see my hand, I'm tightening up this orange piece. And I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to switch sides. I just kind of wrap it around my fingers. And I've done enough of these in one sitting, back to back to back, that I'll eventually get a blister right here in my finger. You can see the little mark right there. But you get up here, and you can hold it here and pull back as you pull this way, or you can use your thumb or whatever. Right? And it's tightening up these orange. Now, since I'm on this side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten up this brown. And what it does is it pulls this piece of brown right over here, or this rust is what it is. Fox orange and rust. I guess I should have said that. But I want you to see what I'm about to do. If I don't hold this over here, when I pull this, it's going to want to go, and this is going to want to go around the back of the bracelet. Just watch. You see how it kind of disappeared around the back? We don't want it to do that, right? So you reach back there. This is the way I always do it. I put my hand, I was talking to a friend yesterday about this. I put my hand back here. Once you get going, you can do this. Put your hand back here like this and hold it. And what your hand is doing is keeping the back of the bracelet relatively flat to keep it from, when you pull it, to keep it from wrapping around that edge. Right? So you just kind of hold it there, and you're pinching it and holding it back as you pull, but your hand is acting as that guardrail, if you will, to keep that from wrapping around the side. And then you just switch hands, and you do the same thing, but you do it on that other cord. There's a lot of tightening up in this. Yeah, I got pulled a little too much. That's all right. We'll fix it. All right. Now say this, the way this does, if you pull it and it wraps around, what it ends up causing to happen is it causes the bracelet to be thicker. Now, there's nothing wrong with a thick bracelet, but it will affect how you have to size the thing, right? So that, and like I've said before, all the numbers below, they are a starting point. They are for my weaving style. Your weaving style may not be the same. You know, you may not pull your cord as tight as me, or you may pull it tighter than me, so your cord lengths may be slightly different and all this. But if you pull that and you're not maintaining this, it's going to cause that piece to wrap around. The edges won't look exactly the way I have them, but it's going to make your bracelet thicker. Not that that's a bad thing. It's just going to, this is weaving style, right? Does that make sense? So, with that said, just be mindful. Once you do it, you pull it, you'll reach back there and you'll go, yeah. You pull it and it wraps around and you'll go, yeah, that is thicker. If you keep it kind of flat, if you look at the back of this, it's a little, it starts off flat. But when you come back and you do this stitching, it draws it in, and it kind of, there's a concave right here. Just so you know. But that's really it right there. That's the basis of this. That's a Sanctified right there. That's all it is. Right? I'll do it again. The main cord, the one that's the core strand, I'm starting with the left, so I'm going to go under and over, but coming up through the slot. Pull out your excess. Same thing on this side. Go under the first core strand, up through the slot, and I'm going to maintain the consistency of this one being closer to the top and this one being on the bottom. So, under the first core strand, over the second core strand, pull your slack through. Get that? Grab this. And the way I do it, I just use my hand. Down here below where the two main cords cross, you bring that accent up through the middle slot, and in this hole right here, just kind of pull your little excess out and create you a bite, which is what this is known as. I had to explain that to my wife last night. That's known as a bite. And you just stick it through that hole and grab it with your fingers, and just pull your excess through. And do the same thing over here. Just kind of run it up below all this stuff, in between the two core strands. Create you a little bit of a bite, and then right here, just pull it through. And that's it. Give it a little loose cinch, push everything up, right? And when we get here, like I say, push it up, grab this, and tighten it. Right? I'm going to switch hands and tighten this one up. Right? Now we're going to tighten up these. And like I say, flatten it out. Put your hand back there to keep it flat on the back. That's the way I do it. You don't have to, but when you pull these, it's going to cause it to wrap around. And then this one. Now I'm going to pull this, and you'll see how this piece of rust right here where my finger is, you'll see it tighten up. Alright? Now after you do that, you may have a little looseness in these. So just kind of go back and give them a little tightening again. And we can see the pattern starting to form. And that's it. That's it. One more time. Under, over, pull your excess through. From this side, under, over, pull your excess through. Right, over here. Grab it far enough down that you got the slack. Pull it up, create the little bite, and just grab it right there. And just pull your excess through. Same thing. Get you enough slack right there. Push it up through the back side. See, I'll say this too. I've talked about my jig and the fat in between the back side of this bracelet and the spine piece, this piece of wood back here. There's about 3 inches. The only jig I know made that way is a speedy jig. I personally don't like the speedy jigs. Like all these other ones, they don't have that. But that is a bonus when it comes to me and my jig. I created it so I can get my hands back here. I can make my fist and I can stick it right there. That's how wide that is. That's how much clearance there is. That way, you know, you can get back there. And this spine piece, it's not real wide. It's narrow. That way I can come up at an angle and get there. If I'm working on a wide bracelet, especially when you get to the end and you're trying to fit your fids, your stitching needle, or not stitching needles, but your lacing needles, whatever that you attached it into these and you're trying to get down there at the bottom. Yeah, it makes it a lot easier when you got room back there. Right? Something to consider, a factor to consider. Okay, but like I say, come down, run it up through the middle, through the 2 core strands, up under here, form your little bite, and through these 2 loops, just run it through and grab hold of it, and pull your excess through. And that's the way I always grab the 2 accents and kind of pull them up, pull, just kind of. Give it a little loose cinch, get it up there and take the majority of the slack out. Then I'll reach up here with my fingers and push them up. And kind of tighten that one. Switch hands. Kind of tighten that one. Now put my hand back there to maintain relatively flat on the back. Right? That's what my fingers are doing. And then I pinch it. And I'm pulling, holding back as I pull the cord. And you'll see it tighten up this piece. Let's see if I can hold it in such a way as you can see that piece of rust tighten up. Right? Actually, let's do this. Now that we've got some woven, I'm going to not grab it that way. And you'll see how it will wrap around. Watch it. It'll want to wrap around. You see how the orange flared out edge, that modified edge, you see how it disappears around the edge? We don't want it that way. Well, you can do it that way, but it's going to cause the bracelet to be thicker, and you're going to have to size it different than the measurements I got, right? So, like I say, push it up, and you'll hold that hand back here to keep it flat, pinch it. And that'll keep it, it'll allow you to tighten up that piece of rust without pulling the orange and all that stuff around. Right? And switch sides. We'll do it on the other side. And we go back. See, now it's loose. That's loose. So I'm going to push that up again and just kind of give it a little. All right? Oops, sorry about that. That camera's right next to my forehead, if you don't know. And I wear reading glasses, and the clip that's holding the camera is right next to my forehead. So if I move wrong, it hits it. We'll get out and do it one more time. Just go under. And I usually do all this in one move. Just kind of. We see that? That's it. Under, over. But like I said, I do it all in one move. Just kind of. And what I'm doing is I'm holding it right there. That way it doesn't pull this and tighten that up. So if I pull it, it tightens up that piece of orange. I don't want to tighten that up yet. I just hold it right there. That way when I pull this, it only pulls the excess through. That's what that little move is there. See? And always, like I say in all my videos, look at it. Make sure, especially these edges, because the way this edge is, the way that orange is intertwining in itself, it's notorious that if you pull it and you don't pull it with the right amount of, I ain't gonna say the right amount of tension, with a consistent amount of tension in the consistent direction, what'll happen is this edge, when you flip it to the side and look at it, they're not going to be in line. They'll be wavy up and down like this. Let's see. See, this one's actually pretty straight. Other than the fact that the bracelet itself is wavy, these pieces are pretty much in line. You see what I'm saying? But if you start getting the tension, your tension consistency off, that little edge, because all it is that one little piece of cord, but it's the way it's wrapping in it on itself, it will show. Let's see. Let's look at this other one. Yeah, I don't see anything that stands out too bad. I mean, I don't know how well you can see that on camera, but that piece right there, compared to the pieces next to it, it's a little off, but it's not that bad. To the untrained eye, you'd never see it. But other than that, but you see, I mean, like I say, other than the fact that the bracelet is kind of bent, but those pieces of black are pretty much in line. And that's what you want to do when you do this. Just kind of make sure every now and then look around the edge. Like mine, I can kind of tilt mine a little bit and just kind of look at them. But that's it. That's all there is to this one. So I'm gonna weave this out to the end, and right before I get down to the end, I'll come back and I'll show you how I finish it, and then I'll show you the stitching. And the stitching on this one is, like I say, it's pretty simple. It'll take you a little time to do it, but once you see how it's done, you're not having to dig and fight, for the most part. You're not having to dig and fight through the knot. It pretty much, it goes right through. You know, not compared to some of the stitch patterns I do, yeah, they can be a boogery mess, but this one, not that hard. It's not that hard, and the end results is really good. So with all that said, stick around and I'll show you how I finish this off, and we'll do the side stick. And I'll tell you this, the two stitches, I'll show you on the gold one, you can probably see it better. We'll do what it is you got this row of gold here. That's one run of stitching, and then this side is another run. So that's two separate ones. And then this piece in the middle of smoke gray with the gold, that's a whole nother thing. Makes sense? It's three separate elements that are all put on there. But you'll do one side, you do the other side, and then we'll do the covenant center spine or whatever. But stick around and we'll have us a stitched, double modified, sanctified covenant before it's over with. Okay, weavers, I got it weaved out to the end. I got maybe one, maybe two more repetitions before I finish it out. I figured I'd come back, show you how I finished this off, I'll go ahead and tell you, when you get down here to the end, you may not want to pull these. I know me anyway. I pull them as tight as I can. If it allows, I'll pull it as tight as I can. But these last couple of ones, it can make it a little bit hard to back weave the ends of your cord into the back side of the bracelet. So always be mindful of that. With this weave, any weave, right? And plus, we're going to have not only these to back weave, we're going to have 3 pieces of micro cord and another piece of 550. Now, I'm not going to put them all in the same spot, but it will get tight back there. So, just be mindful of that. Okay, let's see. I think I may be able to get 2 more reps out of this. Let's see. I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to do 1, and we'll go from there and see. Or I should say 1.5 weaves. Just like we've been doing here. Let me zoom in so you can see this better. Doing the same thing we've been doing, it's just going to be tight. And like I've said before, the camera is pointing straight down. I'm looking at this here. I'm looking at this over here from this angle, kind of a downward slant. So, I can't see exactly what the camera sees. So, if it looks like I'm stumbling and fumbling, I am because I can't quite see it. Right? Okay, with that said, just, show me some grace on that one. But, we're going to just do like we've done so far. Oh, goodness. Okay. Now remember, like I said, no matter which one you did on top toward the top buckle, maintain that consistency. So we're going to bring this other one up. Let's make sure it's not wrapped around anything. Bring it up. Okay. Now, we'll bring this one around. This is where it can kind of get tight. Make sure that when you do this, you're paying attention and you get your accent, in this case the fox orange, between the 2 core strands, but up under those main weaving cords. Alright? We're going to pull it through. Now, let me make sure that I'm going to get this through here, right? Because I have a tendency, I tell you one of the mistakes I always make on one of these. When I've got it propped up facing me and I'm just weaving, no problem. But when I have it up here like this and I can't quite see, I'll end up running this through these loops, but I'll end up having the loop twisted the wrong way. Does that make sense? So be mindful of it. Make sure it's in there. I want to say that's in there the right way. Right, now we're going to do the other one. Bring it up. Right. Now give me a second. Let me pull this off camera and look at it to make sure I've done this the right way. Okay, like I say, when I'm doing it, because normally what I do, I've said this in my past videos, this is my desktop, right? No, I don't weave this way. And the camera looking straight down. What I do is I tilt this thing up, and I put the bottom of this jig in the chair between my legs, and I tilt the top part up and lean it up against the edge of my desk. That way it's like an easel. It's raised up, or a drafting table is raised up, and I'm looking straight at it. And it makes it so much easier, so much more comfortable, and it's easier to weave. So, there's your tip right there. If you tend to sit at a desk and lean over, it hurts your back. You probably already know this. Rig up your jig somehow I don't know. People have different jigs. I've got some examples. I'll just throw this out here if I can get a hold of it. Like an easy jig. I've mounted it on a piece of wood. Why? That way it has this piece down here that, you know, that allows for the thing to slide, but it's got this extra room. I can put this between my legs in the chair. Right? If you got a speedy jig, same thing. Just mount it on a piece of wood or something. It doesn't matter. Does that make sense? That's something I've done, you know. And when I designed my jig, I designed it that way. That way, that's why this piece right here is so long. It sticks out probably about 8 more inches past the end of this. Right? Yeah, it's an average 6, 7, 8 inch bracelet. But I got this extra room that, you know, I can do that. But anyway, with that said, all right, we got it up, we got all that up there. Let's see. Now we're gonna just pull this one tight like we've been doing. Just kind of pull your slack out. Now when you get down here to the end, to the last little bit, it does get a little tight. Okay, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. The next repetition will be a quote-unquote half repetition. You'll hear me use that term. You watch enough of my videos, you'll hear me use that term. It's basically to maintain the look of the weave, but yet we're not going to do the full over and under mechanics of that repetition, of the next repetition. Right? We're just going to kind of halfway do it. That way we get all our cords toward the back side. Right? So, we're going to tighten this one up just like we've been doing. Kind of hold it. Pull that one tight. Do the same over here. Pull that one tight. Right? Now we're going to do the rust color. Pull it tight. Pull it tight. Pull it tight. Go back. Tighten up them 2 oranges. Okay, now, this is the way I finish this one off. What I'm going to do, here, let me do this. I'm going to go ahead and take it off the jig. Get this out of the way. I'll show you. Okay, what I'm going to do, left cord's on the left, right cord's on the right. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this orange one, these 2 rust ones, or the brown looking ones, all they're going to do is just stay right there where they are. Just kind of pull them around the back, and that kind of keeps them in that same, you know, basically the same pattern. Right? Now, we're going to take that orange one, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up and over, get the end of it, and I'm going to come up and over, and right here at the very bottom where you can see through, below all the stuff we've already done, and in between those 2 core strands, which you can't see now, I'm going to just go down right through there. Bam. And pull your slack through. What do you say? I'm going to do the other one the same way. That'll get these on the back side, and it'll kind of maintain that overall look. I mean, I know it's not the exact same, but that's the way I've been doing it. If you got a better way, go right ahead, But this is the way I do it. All right? Okay, you see how I did that? Now, if you look, you kind of got them all on the back side now, which is what we want. So again, let's get them separated on each side. Now, what I'm going to do, the way I'm going to do this, you'll have your 2 accent cords, the orange, the ones that are running on the edge, are going to be right coming through the middle right here. And these other ones are on the edge, right? So the way I do this is I'm going to take these 2 oranges and keeping them on the side that they were on. Right? This orange wrapped around, went down through the middle, and it come out on this side. Keep it on the side that it started on, right? Same thing with the other one. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this orange. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see this. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it up under. I'm going to run it up under. Let me make sure. I'm going to run it. The side that it's on, I'm gonna run it up under the side that it's on, right? These two on this side will be run up under this side, and these two are going to be run up under this side, back woven on this side. Does that make sense? But what I'm going to do is I'm not going to run it up under this piece of orange right here. I'm going to skip it and run it up under that first piece of the main weaving cord and the next piece, which is the accent color, right? So let me get this started. Like I said, this is where it gets tight, depending on how tight you've woven this end. It can be rather tight. And plus, you got two pieces to go under there. Then you got some micro cord, and you got another piece of 550 that you're going to run up under one side or the other. But let me get this through here, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Right now, it's not that bad because, this is the first one. But after you get the second one and you start doing the micro and all that, it can get tight. So that one went up under it pretty easy. But you see how I did that? And being that this one is toward the center of the bracelet and this one is toward the outside edge, I'm going to keep them in those respective positions when I run them up under the cord. When you go to pull this, like I always say, be mindful of your twist. Make sure this loop is not a twist in it. And as you pull it and that loop gets shorter and shorter and shorter, you'll see that if it has a twist, it'll magnify itself. You see how it's not wanting to twist up on itself? And just pull it through. Right, now we're going to take this one and we're going to do it the same way. And we're going to run it up under the same cords, but we're going to do it over here on this edge, in between that orange we just ran and this outer edge. That way it'll keep it on. You see, does that make sense? That's how we're going to do it. Just like that. We'll run it. See, it's a little bit tighter this time. And I'll go ahead and tell you, like I've said before, anytime you do this back weaving like this, it's going to affect what the front of this bracelet looks like. And you see, I haven't done anything to this side. I haven't back woven anything on this side. You see what it looks like now? You see over here where I back woven it? You see how it kind of distorts it a little bit? That's just the nature of the way these things are. If you do it and you keep it just a little loose down there, it'll make it easier going under and it won't distort as much. But you don't want it so loose that it's not going to stay in there, right? It's kind of a compromise, a happy medium. You see how that's wanting to twist right there? It's got that twist in it. We got to get that out. So what I'll do is I'll take this cord and I'm going to rotate it, against this twist. That way it'll get it out. We see that? We just pull it. You don't have to get it incredibly tight at the moment. If that's it, now you can see what it looks like. Now you can come over here and kind of manhandle it a little bit, and it'll straighten it back out. It still kind of gives it a little bit of distortion, but it's not that bad. It's not that bad. That's just the nature of the way these things are. Okay, now we're going to do this side. We're going to do the orange on this side. Okay, now in the case of this one, what I'm going to do on this one, if we look, yeah, it should work. I'm going to go Not this last piece of orange, just like we skipped it. We're going to go under the piece of rust and that piece of orange right there. All right, let me get now. This one's going to be a little tight. But get it under there. I'll show you. We see that? I'm going to pull it through, making sure it doesn't have a twist in it. What you can do, I'll show you this too. I mean, I've showed this in some past videos. Just a tip for the newbies out there who may not know this. Right? When you actually go to back weave it like that, you can take your cord. If you look at the cord, you can see the grain of the cord, of the individual threads in there. Pull it out and follow it to the end. And as you do, run your eye along it and see that it's not twisted. And then you just take it and fold it right back over itself. Fold it right back over itself. As opposed to having it, see how it's got a twist in it? If it's got a twist in it and you go to put it in there, yeah, it's going to have a twist. But if you run it and look at it, as you run your finger down it, and kind of line it up. I know you can't see what I'm doing over here off camera, but get the twists out ahead of time and then just take the end of the cord and fold it right back over itself. That'll prevent much of the twists. Now we're going to do it the same way, up under that piece of rust and that piece of orange on the outer edge, because this one's on that outer edge. And this one's going to be tight. And to think, I still got another piece of 550 to get up under one of these two. You see, I've got two on this side and two on this side, right? Well, eventually we're going to have 3 pieces of micro cord and a piece of 550. And, you know, it comes down to, when you get to that point, it comes down to, the micro cord's not so bad. You put one on one side, one on the other, and then you just arbitrarily choose which side you want that third piece to go. But that last piece, or that piece of 550, yeah, that comes down to which side do you think is going to be easier to get under. So that's a judgment call. Right? See, it has no twist in it, so we're just going to pull it through. And when I get it right here, I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to kind of try to straighten this thing out. Like I said, it kind of distorts it a little bit. And you can see these pieces right here, they're a little loose. This one, not so much. This one is. That's the one I just did. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this thing. I'm not trying to get it super tight right this second because I'm not doing the final cut and burn. Anytime you're going to stitch, I've said this in a lot of my videos, anytime you're going to stitch a bracelet, when you get ready, you get to this point, do not do your final cut and burn. That big hard lump of melted plastic may get right in the way where you need that stitching needle to go through. So you leave you an inch or two over here and cut them. You'll see. I'll show you in just a second. But I'm gonna pull these. Not incredibly tight because this is not the very end, but I'm going to go ahead and pull them tight. But leave you about an inch, inch and a half, 2 inches. Slice them off. Now some of these are probably, this rust, yeah, it's going to be long enough. That's going to be a scrap piece I can save. Which, like I've said before here, I'll zoom out so you can see, it's over 1 foot long on each side. It's about 2 feet long on each side. Each side of this is about 2 feet long, right? So, you know, be mindful. And this was done for about a 6 3/4 inch wrist. I'm making this one for my wife, and her wrist is slightly smaller than mine. So when I make one of these, a lot of times I just size hers up to the point that, hey, it might fit me, it might not. I'm not so exacting on the size when I do one for my wife, because she doesn't want hers. See, this one's actually for her. That's why it's a little tighter than I like. She doesn't want hers that tight. She wants it a little loose. So I just size it up more so than I would, right? But this one's going to be saved. We're going to force of habit. I do this all the time. Let it cool for a second. come back and just run your fingers across it. Not a lot of pressure. All you're doing is kind of tapering the end of it and letting it harden, and there you go. Take a fid off, put it in a little handy dandy fid holder I have over here on my desk. I'm gonna put these in my scrap bucket up under my desk. Now these two pieces right here, they're about just over a foot long. Just over a foot long. We could save these. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep, well, no, I don't need it just yet. I'm going to go ahead and put it in my holder. I was going to say, I'm going to keep one out because I will use it in a second. You know what? Let me go back and look at this. You know what? I forgot. One of those pieces of that rust is going to end up becoming that centerpiece that runs down through there. So I should have just left the fid on it, but it's no big deal. It's no big deal. I'm going to leave it up there. Right? Okay, now, with these pieces right here, I should have did this before, but it's okay. We'll do it right now. When I go to cut this, I don't like leaving that there. Potentially, what can happen, and it has happened, one of those individual strands, and I don't mean the white ones, the inner core strands, I mean the outer sheath, the outer, what do they call it, the kern mantle, the sheath, the outer part, the orange or the rust. One of those little individual strands could get snagged on something when you start stitching, and you pull it, it'll cause a run in your cord. And it has happened to me in the past. We can all learn from Tyndall's dumb mistakes. That run can go down, and it can be seen on this side. So what I do, when I cut them, I burn them. I don't shape the ends of them like you saw me do with the other ones. I just burn them. That way, those individual strands cannot get snagged. Snagged. Conjugate your verb there, Tyndall. You see what I'm saying? I just let it cool off. We'll save that to the end. Okay, now, I got my piece of microcord already cut. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, this is probably going to be a little bit more than I need, but like I always say, I would rather have enough to be able to finish it than to get down close to the end and go, oh, I didn't cut enough. That's why my numbers, that's why I have so much, because this stuff doesn't cost that much. It's roughly, give or take, about 10 cents a foot. Now this, I don't know how much this stuff is per foot. I know it's not that much, but it doesn't cost that much. I know we don't want to waste our materials, but I would rather just be able to finish the weave than to worry about running out of cord. Makes sense? Okay, now, here's the stitching part. Like I said, this is it's pretty easy. There's a couple of little tricks to get it to do right. What in the world? I got melted paracord stuck to my desk. Well, let's get all this stuff out of the way. Okay, now I'm going to show you something on here. I've pulled this other one out. Okay, I've done this. I'll show you how I've done this. This is something I've done in the past. I'm going to try a new way or a new anchor point, a new way to anchor it, a directional thing, right? What I've been doing, hopefully this can be seen on camera. These two pieces, what I'm about to do, just so we know, what I'm about to do right now is this gold stitching down one side and then the gold down the other, right? It's two separate pieces. Do them first, then the covenant spine part, which is the gray and that gold, that will be done at the very end. That's the very last part we do. But we're going to do this stitching down the side, right? That's what I'm about to do. So, when you get here, top of the bracelet where we started weaving, we go down, we flip it over. What I've been doing is coming from this direction and going up under. Let me make sure that I'm on. Yeah. Come from this direction. Like if I'm gonna start on this side with that run of stitching, you do it on that side of the bracelet, right? Anchoring on this side is gonna be for this side, right? What I've been doing is I've been coming at it from this way, going up under these first two pieces. I'm leaving the nub or the tail sticking out up here at the top. Well, what I've found is that the way this thing's woven together, when you go to cut that last piece of microcord and try to burn it, it ends up, it's hard to get the flame to it right. Now, I was fortunate on this one. You see them right here. I was fortunate I didn't burn these cords that are going through the buckle or nothing, but it just, I'm like, maybe let me try a different way to see if this will work better, right? And that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to try this. So instead of coming at it from this direction, I'm going to come at it from this direction, right? So I'm going to flip this around. Now what we're going to do, just so you know, so you understand, this accent color, that's the orange, right? Where these two accent colors meet right here, that's where we're going to go through the bracelet and come out the other side. It's a pretty easy shot. Just, it goes right through there. See how easy that is? Right? That's where we're going to want to go through. Right? So, with that in mind, that's where we're headed. We're going to have to drop down below that somewhere. And I say, let's see. I say just, oops, sorry, I'm out of frame. I say we drop down two. One piece of rust and one piece of orange and come up under right there. I'll get this through here. And I'll go ahead and tell you, the first piece, no matter what you're doing, when you go up under the first piece, whether it be anchoring your stitching, this direction, that direction, doing this down here, back weaving these, or this, eventually this covenant spine piece on the front, it doesn't matter. I'll go ahead and tell you this. I've noticed this. The first one you try to go up under, it's usually pretty easy. But when you try to go up under the next one, it can be a little difficult, and it tends to poke through that cord. So just be mindful, because we're trying not to poke through that cord. So when you get it up under that one, you can kind of tilt it down a little bit and try to get it up under that second one or whatever. You just got to work with it. We see that. Like I was saying, I'm coming this way. That first one, that piece of orange, is pretty easy to get under. But trying to go up under the second piece, in this case is rust, yeah, you kind of got to, yeah, because you tend to want to poke through that one. But you got to get up under it, right? So, we're up under it. We're going to push through. Pull it through. Like always, reach back up there with your thumb and kind of press it down to create resistance. Because now you just created a hole, and you don't want to pull this and have it pull all the way through. So press it down, create some resistance so you don't pull it through, and pull it slow because it's not a very long piece. When you get down here to the end, leave you a tail, leave you something to work with there in the end. Okay, now what we're going to do, we got it anchored. We're going to stitch it now. And like I say, this stitch is not hard. It's not a hard stitch. You've heard me talk about a spiral stitch. That's all this is. It's just done on a different bracelet. All we're doing is wrapping around, in this case, that one core strand that's on that side of the bracelet. We're just wrapping around it. Just imagine there's that core strand running down that side. We're just going to wrap around that core strand and go all the way down the bracelet. But you've got to know where to go through to get it to end up looking like that, which is not hard. And like I say, right there where it's at, right there where it is, in between those two pieces of orange, it's right there where we're going to go through. And it's pretty easy. You just go through and it comes right through. Right? And you just pull through. Mindful of your twist. Now when you get right here, this is where it can be tricky, because We want to make this, we've got to get this piece. Let's see if I can show you what I'm talking about. Okay? So you can see this on camera and you'll know why I'm doing it, why I'm telling you to do it this way. So you'll see the difference. Okay. If you look, where's my handy dandy, my new and improved handy dandy laser paracord pointer? If you look at this piece of stitching, this gold, you see where it is. It's coming from the back side of the bracelet, and it's right here next to this piece of blue. Right? Now look at this one we just did. In this case, it would be, instead of the blue, it's this piece of orange. Right, you see it's coming out in the middle. We don't want it there. We want it right over here in this corner. Now how do we get it there? We're going to have to pull it this way. But, and here's the big but because this is the very first one, if you pull this, what's going to happen, it's not going to seat or pop, it will pop, you will see, into that little space right there. What will happen is you'll end up pulling this and you'll suck it through and it'll come out. So when you do this first one and even the second one and potentially the third one, you have to make sure you are physically holding this thing. So when you pull it, because you got to put some force on this to get it to go in there, you got to hold this so it doesn't suck it up in there. Does that make sense? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take hold of this. And this may take you a few, because especially this first one, these first couple of ones, you got to put some pressure on it usually to get it to pop into place. But once you get down here to the meat of the bracelet, you don't have to hold anything. You just got to hold the bracelet and pull it. And it pops right into place. And it's pretty easy. You still got to put some force on it. But when you get down here to the end where all this is real tight, yeah, you got to pull it. You got to put a lot of force in it. But this first one, just take this. However you want to do this, I guarantee you the first time you try this, you're going to pull this, and most likely it will happen to me. You're going to pull this piece to pop it in place, and this right here is going to go, it's going to disappear into the bracelet. And it probably will happen to me. Why? Because it gets camera shy. Nothing wants to work on camera. But you're going to hold that. Just hold that piece, and then reach up here like this. You can either pull it towards you or pull it away from it. I find it a little easier just to hold this piece right here. Hold it. Or you take a pair of pliers, whatever you want to do, but hold it very securely. And take this piece and pull it towards you. And if you watch, let's see, I'm going to zoom in. Maybe you will be able to see this. You might even be able to hear it. I know what I'm doing. I can hear it. Let's get this out of the way. See if I can't get it to focus. Yes, that's about as well as it's going to be. Okay, you see where it's at. Now just watch when I pull this. Listen and watch it. It'll pop right into place. So that one didn't pop. But you see where it's at now, right? Compared to where it was. That's where you want it. So it's running right next to that piece of rust. Right? Okay. Now you can let go of that one for now. Now, what we're going to do here, if we look, you got to look at this kind of close. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. Come on, focus. What I'm going to do is this piece of rust right here. Right here. Notice, this is the top where we started weaving for. So we orientate ourselves. This is where we began weaving. We're going to weave down this way, or we're going to stitch down that way. we're going to have this piece of goldenrod right here, piece of goldenrod microcord is going to run right here, just below this piece of rust, right there. So you can follow that groove down, and right in here, you're going to go through the bracelet. Now, once you do this, you'll see, oh, okay, I see how he's doing that, and where it's going through at. All right? I'm going to turn it. This is the way I do it. I'll turn it kind of sideways, and I'm going to come at it right there. And if you look, you're going to see, you may not be able to see it. Yeah, you can kind of see it. If you look close, hopefully your eyes are good enough to see this. If you look, you're going to see this piece of orange, this piece of orange, and then there's another piece right there. We're going to go in between all three of those in that hole right there. Right? I'll get it through there and I'll hold it back up here to the camera and you can see. And you're going to kind of, you see how I got it kind of angled there? You see how easy it was to get through? Once you know where to go through at, it's easy to get it through. But you see how, like I say, this is the top where we started weaving or stitching, and we're going to work our way down. So you see it's kind of got a downward angle to it, like this. I'm going to run it through there. You can see where it's coming out at. All right. Now we're going to pull or slide through. Make sure it's not wrapped around the bracelet. Mindful of the twist. Right. Now, you see, I'm going to show you again. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to have to put some force on it to get it to sink down in the groove where we want it. We see where it is right now. All right. Now, let's look at the other one. You see how it's down inside that groove? It's not sticking out. We got to do the same thing. We got to pull it this. The last time we had to pull it toward us this way. We're going to flip the bracelet over and pull it toward us. And it's going to pull it down in that groove. Right? But because we're right here at the top, again, we've got to hold this piece to make sure when we put this force on it, it doesn't suck this all the way down in there. Right? So I'm going to try to do this so you can see that piece. You see how it just kind of goes in that little groove? Now you see what it looks like now. I know it's not focusing very well, but you get the general idea of it right there. When you look at it from the side, I know you can still see that piece of goldenrod right there. I know the shadow's not doing it any. See how you see what I'm saying? You can still see it, but when you look at it from the top, it's not so. You see what I'm saying? I know the camera doesn't know what to do with these two colors because on camera those colors look the same. But when you get a little distance, you can see that little piece of goldenrod there. Believe me, to my naked eye, I can see the contrast in those three colors. On camera, you can't so much. Right? But now, we look at where we're at now. See how we come out right below. We went between these two pieces of orange. And now we're on the back side again, and we're at these two pieces of orange. So we're going to go through right there, in between those two pieces of orange. And again, it's not hard to get it to go through. I say that, and I'm going to jam it in the wrong place. See? It's fairly easy. It goes through. You can getting it through there's the easy part of this stitch. The difficult part is putting that force and getting it to pop into place. Mindful of your twist. All right. Now, again, what I'm going to do You can kind of see that piece of goldenrod right there. Once I put this force on it, it's going to disappear down in there. You won't see it. But again, we're back to this point where it's at. It's coming out right here, but we want it to be right over here. See how this one's over here? That's where we want it. So again, we're going to have to pull it towards us. Or however, you can pull it away from it. It doesn't matter. You just got to put the force toward the outside edge of the side of the bracelet you're working on. But, again, just like we did the first time, we're going to have to hold this piece. Until we get about 3 or 4 of these stitches, you're going to have to hold this piece, because you pull it, it may come out, right? So just be mindful of that. So hold it, and let's see if this thing will pop. You see that? I felt a little pop. You may have heard it on camera, not so much, but I felt it. All right? Now we see where it is now. Now, same thing. Get the tangles and the twists out of this piece of cord. Look at that. That's a big old knot right there. Let's get that out of there. Yep, that's definitely a knot. It's not just a twist. That's a knot. Let me get it out. Run this out to get some of them twists out. I notice when I do this, just the nature of the way I do it, it gets a lot of twists in it. Okay, again. I'll follow that piece of rust right around down here. And I'm going to go through where this piece of orange, and that little tiny sliver of a piece of orange is, right here in this little piece. Remember, we're going to angle it downward just a little bit. It's pretty simple. It goes right through there. That's the easy part. Pull it, mindful of your twist. When you get it to right there, again, you see the difference of how this one is down the side there. Look at it from the straight down display side view. You see the difference between that piece and that piece. There's your side view, right? That's why we're going to pull it again toward the center. And we're going to hold the tail piece again, right? See? That's all there is to it. Now we're going to do it again. We come out on the bottom of that piece of orange. So we're going to just go right here to the center, in between where these two pieces of orange kind of meet. I'm going to go right through that bracelet. Like I said, getting it through is the easy part. It's getting it to seep down in that little crack where you want it. Right? You can still see it there. Now, this is the last time, but I'm going to hold this also this time. This will be the last time. And I'm going to hold it. Hold it. I'm going to pull it toward me. Now watch it. I felt it pop. I know you can't feel it. I don't know, maybe you could hear it. I heard it a little bit. We see? Same thing. Now we're going to follow that piece of rust around. Right here, well, there's 3 pieces of orange. This piece of orange, and that little sliver right there. Right there where all 3 of them meet, you're going to go through right there. Pull it through. Get right there. Now watch, I'm going to pull this. See how it disappears down in there? Now what happens, just so you know, what happens when you do that, if you look, you can see it, kind of.
you see how these pieces of orange, where I've done this stitching, they're kind of more this way than these are. There's a kind of a dip in it right there. What it's doing, when I pull that, you remember in the beginning when I was talking about weaving it and holding your hand on the back to keep the back of the bracelet flat so it wouldn't be so thick. When you do this part right here and you're pulling on it, what it's doing is it's causing that orange edge to want to curl around on itself, right? And it won't, you'll notice it. It's flat for the most part right here. But up there you can feel, right there where I did it, those edges right there are raised up just a little bit compared to the center. And that's why I've said this in some of my other videos. If you make a bracelet with no stitching, you size it this way, whatever your add to number is. But sometimes when you come back and you stitch that bracelet, it will change the sizing, right? And this, if you don't do it right, it can totally affect the sizing by a lot. But just go with the numbers I've given you down there and you should be good to go. If you do all this the way I'm showing you, right? Like I said, I've said this in the past. People always want to know about the add to. I'm like, it comes down to weaving style. You know, if you do it exactly like I do it, then your style is exactly like mine for that given bracelet. So the numbers should work for you. But if you just do some other weave and you don't do it, the sizing number, that add to factor, may be slightly different for you and your weaving style than it is for somebody else and their weaving style. Does that make sense? So anytime somebody gives you these numbers, remember, they're all relative to that person's individual weaving style. How tight you pull it, how tight you pull your cords, how much you push up to the top, if you don't hold the back or you do hold the back, are you going to stitch? All these factors come into it. So none of this is exactly the same from one weaver to the other weaver to the next weaver. You see what I'm saying? But I'm going to do this one more time and I'll show you. Right? Below, down here, below that piece of orange, we're just going to follow around and go right through the middle of the bracelet in between those two pieces of orange. Goes right through. Pretty simple. Push it through, pull your slack out, kind of mindful of your twist. When we get right here, this is the way I do it. I just flip it over, sit it on the table, and that'll keep those edges from curling in around on themselves. They're going to do it anyway, but not so much, right? Just kind of hold it, and then take this piece right here. Hold the bracelet, and then take this and pull it toward me, back this way. If you watch, again, you'll see. You see where it's at, and you'll see it pop into place. You might even be able to hear it. I heard that one. It popped into place, and I felt it, right? And we run a cord out to the end, get the twist out. And again, following that piece of rust down to where these three pieces of orange meet. This one, and that little sliver right through, right there. And just kind of, boop, it goes right through. This one, the stitching on this was pretty easy. It's just, you got to, right here, you flip it over, just like I did the other one. I'm going to flip it over. Now that I don't have to worry about holding this piece because I've got it wrapped enough, I don't have to worry about it sucking it through. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over, and when I go to pull it, I'm going to hold down that edge to keep that edge from wanting to curl around the back. Just kind of hold my finger, not on the cord, micro cord, just on that edge, and just, it gets it in place. All right? Right there, hold it down, hold it, watch, you'll see it pop. And that's it. That's all there is to it. Now, I'm going to get done with this one. I'm going to stitch this side out. And then I'll stitch the other side out. When I get down to this other side of the stitching, I'll show you how I finish the stitching. Because it's the same thing on both sides. It's just, you know, a mirror imaged. And like I say, this side... Here, let me back out so you can see this. We're stitching this side. We're going to get it all the way down. Like I say, when you get down here to this bottom part, it's going to be tight. Why? Because of all this stuff we got here. So it's tight. So be careful, but get it through there. And when you get done, you're going to... What I do is I'll take this piece, and once it get it on this... Like how it's coming out on the back right here, the very last one, it's going to come out right down here. And you just back weave it up in to the same side. It's stitched on this side. You're going to back weave it on this side. Now the other one, you're going to stitch that side of the bracelet. You're going to back weave it up into that one. Makes sense? But once I get down to this part right here, down to this side, very end, I'll come back and I'll show you how I do this last part. And, you know, it's the same way for this side. But stick around and I'll be back in a second. Okay, folks, I'm back. I got this one stitched out almost to the end. I got, what, like 1 or 2 more? But I figured I would show you right here at the end because it does get a little tight. But for those of you who watch my series, What's in the Box? Don't look in the box, man. What's in the box? Guess what? I got a box, or a package, if you will. I'll probably open this up on camera, make another video later today sometime. So, you know, there you go. Anyway, let's get back to this. Okay, let's see. I'll show you. Hopefully you can see this. Like I say, man, this orange and this gold, or this fox orange, rust, and goldenrod. That's what the colors are. The fox orange and this goldenrod, you can see the difference. But when you get that light on them, yeah, it's kind of hard to tell. But you can see where I've gotten to. I've gotten to right here. So I've got 1, 2, and this last little section. But right down here, like I said, because of all this back weaving we've done, it gets really tight down here. You see how it's kind of distorted on the edges a little bit. We try to straighten that out best we can. But I figured I would show you this, how you're going to have to maneuver around all this right here. Right? You're going to do the same thing. You just got to be mindful of these cords, these tails sticking out. And, you know, don't get them tangled. Okay? So, where we're at, we've just went through and we're on the back. Now, you kind of move these out of the way and you can see. I'm going to hold them back with my finger. My finger. We're below this piece of orange running right here. We're below it down this way. So we're going to go right in between. Right in between. And that one's pretty easy. We can get that through there. No problem. Now when you go to pull it, make sure you don't get any of the tails wrapped in there. You know, you gotta kind of slow down a little bit once you get here. Okay, now right here, I'm gonna zoom in. Maybe you can hear this because I know what I did to end over here on this side. It got tight, and I had to pull, and that pop that I mentioned before, I audibly heard it, and you know, obviously I can feel it. But maybe you'll be able to hear this on camera. Don't know. Let's see though. It may be this one. It may be the next one. But the point is this: it doesn't. When it gets real tight down here, it's hard to get it to pop into place. So you got to put some force on it. So I'm gonna turn it this way. And I'm gonna pull it toward me. You see where it's at, and we see where we want it to be, right? So let's watch. Maybe you can hear this. I'm going to try to hold it and keep my hand out of the way. That one wasn't that tight, but it did. I felt it. I don't know if you... I heard it. I don't know if you could. All right, we're going to do the next one. Same thing, we're just on the other side.
in between this piece of orange, and this little sliver, we're going to go right through here. Like I say, right here at the bottom, at the end, everything's a little tighter, so you got to kind of pay attention. Right? It goes through there. And just like before, once we get it through here, we got to pull it, so it'll go down and seat down in there, holding it down with my finger and pulling it toward me. And that one doesn't pop. When you do that, you're not going to feel the pop. Okay, now it's getting a little, space is getting a little tighter. We still got to move all these out of the way to get to where we want to go. So I'm going to take them, I'm going to bend them back. And then I'll say this too. Every time I bend these back and hold them, that's a good thing. Why? Because when I get ready to actually cut and burn these, I want them sticking straight out as opposed to laying up here like this. Why? Because it makes burning the ends of these a little easier. Burning just the ends of these and not the bracelet. Alright? So we bend them back and you can kind of hold them with your thumb. And you're going to look. See, even if you look straight down, you still can't see it because there's a piece of orange and we're below it on this side. So we got to go toward the middle. So what I'm going to do, if you can see this, I'm going to tilt this bracelet up so you can look down in there and you'll see. Right there. Where we're going to go through. So you can't see it when you look straight down at it. But it's there. And again, when we pull it through, it goes through easy. It goes through. You can tell it's a little tighter than all these up here, but it goes through, no problem. When you go to pull it, make sure there's no twist, and make sure you don't have any of your tails caught in there, and pull it, and you get right here. Okay? Now, I'm going to spin it around. That way I can pull it toward me, and I'm going to hold the bracelet, and we're going to see. This one right here is probably going to be the one that's not going to want to go into place very easily. So I'm going to have to put some force on it. And maybe you'll be able to hear it or whatever. Just watch. I heard that. I don't know if you could hear that on camera, but I heard it. And you saw where you see where it is now, right? Okay. Now we're getting down here to the end. Now this one is going to be, if you look, just make sure you go through the right spot. It's going to, this one is kind of off. See how the rest of them are pretty much in line. Like I said, they're pretty much in line except for down here at the bottom. That one's kind of off, but this one is more so off. But if you look, I can see, looking at the angle that the needle's coming, that's the angle I'm looking at it. And I can see there's a hole right there where I want to go, and it goes right through. Now yours may not end up being that way, but it's going through in this same spot. You pull it through, and you get right there. We're going to pull it again toward us. Make sure it's seated down in there. It has. Okay, now, this right here. Don't let this confuse you. Don't let this confuse you. Just because you have all these and all this stuff, and you've backwoven into this, the same principle applies. I'm going to flip it back around. So we're orientated again. We started up here and we've worked our way down. If you look, this piece of Goldenrod Micro cord is coming out below this piece of orange, right? So where are we going to go through the bracelet? Just follow it through and go right through the middle. Don't let none of this back weaving and all these tails, don't let that confuse you. You're going to go right through the middle of the bracelet in the same spot you've been going through. But it's probably going to be a tight fit. It may or may not be. It's going to be tighter than the ones up here, but it's going to go through there. See? And again, we just push it through. We pull it down. And we get here. We got one more to do. And this one, I guarantee you, this one's going to be tight again when I go to pull it toward me and pop it in place. It's going to be tight again. Let's see. It may not be, but most likely it is. These ones at the end all usually are. Now see, it didn't go in there.
It didn't go in there. You'll feel it pop. You may not hear it, but you'll feel it when you're pulling. You'll feel boom. Bam. It went in there. I heard it. I don't know if you did. All right. Now, on this one is it's the same principle. Okay. What I'm going to do, since this is where this little last half repetition of the knot is, and we have this orange piece, we're going to go under that piece of orange. What I'm going to try here, let me just do this, and once I get it through there, because it's going to take me a minute, because that's kind of tight right there. I'm going to go right here. What I'm doing is I'm going under this piece of orange, and if you look, there's another piece of this rust right here. You can see it right here. You can't quite see it here, but if you look, I can see up under this piece of orange. Looking at this angle, I can see it. I'm going to go up under this piece of orange and that piece of rust that's up under there. And I'm going to come out on the back side of that piece of rust. If I can get it to go through there. Let me swing my light over here so I can see. Let me get it through there and I'll show you. Yeah, I think that's going to work. Okay, we see where I went through. And you see where the tip's coming out. Right? Now, I may get it in there and pull it and go, yeah, I didn't want it right there. So let me see. Let me pull this, take out my slack, and just kind of give it a little snug. And see, oh yeah, that's going to work. That's going to be right there on that very last one. That's where we want it. Now, right here, all we're going to do on this, just like we've done, since we're on this side of the bracelet, we're going to back weave it up under these two. This piece of rust and this piece. So you can see where I have this piece of goldenrod, the stitching that was on this side. See? Now, we're on this side, so we're going to, does that make sense? Just stay on the same side of the bracelet. Left to right. Okay, now, again, this is a tight fit, because these two pieces, we've done got two pieces of 550. Now we got to get this little piece of micro. So be mindful. See, it goes up under there. Get it under there. I'm going to give it another little pull. Let's see what it looks like on the front. Okay, yeah, everything still looks decent. Yeah, we're going to cut it. Now we're going to singe the end of it. I've already got give that a second. I've already got my piece of 550. Remember these strands here? When I cut them off, I took the fit off, and I said, you know, I should have just left it on there because I'm going to use one. Yeah, it's rather long, and I'll say this too. Let me back out just so you can say this. I'm going to put a note of this in the description below. The measurements that are going to be below, and the reason this piece is so long, like I said, it's over 2 feet long. This one. Now, the one I cut off on the other side, it's just as long. The reason it's so long is because my recipe card, where I write all my notes down, it's set for a 4-strand core. Does that make sense? So those extra 2 strands and the hitching or whatever adds a little bit of distance to it. And I just left the numbers the same. Why? Because I know I'm going to need this piece. Now, you could shorten the length of your the cord that's going to be your core strand. You can shorten it up,
And then when you get done and you get to this point where you need that color, if you're going to use the same color, you can just cut you another piece. I don't do that. I just go ahead and leave the cord length the same, cut it, weave it. That way I know I'm going to have enough to finish, and then this piece, this extra, it gets used as this spine piece right down the middle. Does that make sense? Now, like I said, I'm going to put a note down there. That's why this is so long. It's because I've got the measurements. The measurement doesn't so much affect the orange piece, a little bit, but not much. It affects this one because 2-strand, 4-strand, there is a big difference, but not so much on the orange, right? Okay, so how do we do this? This is how I do it. I'll zoom in and I'll show you. I'll show you this. Me and a friend of mine were talking about this yesterday, and he said something to me. He saw where I had posted some of these, and he said something to me, and I told him, I said, I personally don't like doing it that way. What he was mentioning was, I'll show you on this one because you can see it a lot better. This gray piece is running right down the center that has these little orange or gold pieces on it. That's what we're about to do. That's what this is going to be, right down the center. Okay. A lot of times in a Sanctified covenant where it has that spine piece, what you'll see, depending on what video and what tutorial you'll see, what they'll do is they'll run it through the slot in the bracelet with these other pieces that are here. So what ends up happening is you have 5 pieces of 550 going through that slot. Right now on this 20 millimeter or 3/4 inch buckle, it'll go through there, and there's plenty of room. I may even be able to put the fid through there. You see what I'm saying? The whole fid will go through there, and you can see it. You can get it, and it'll sink down between these 2 grays and these 2 grays. Does that make sense? But me personally, yeah, it's a different color, wrong bracelet. I get it, but me, I don't like doing it that way. I would rather have it go through the top of the bracelet right here. Same thing on the bottom. I don't want it going down and through here. I want it, that's just me though. You can do it however you want. If you've done a Sanctified covenant before, you know what I'm talking about. Just depending on whose video and what tutorial. Some of them do it up here, some of them do it that. However, me, I don't do it that way. Not on this one. On a regular, if I'm doing a regular Sanctified covenant, I might do it that way, but not on this bracelet, the way I want this one to turn out, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start back here, and I'm going to push it through this way, come through the bracelet, I'm going to run it up, and then go back down, and then back with it, right? That's the first thing. And then we'll come back with a piece of micro cord. And again, that piece of micro cord, the stitching on that is very, very simple. This right here is probably going to be the hardest part, is getting this to go up under one of these, either side that you choose, right? And what I'm doing is I'm feeling to see how hard and tight it is. I'm going to just arbitrarily pick which one I think it will go up under better. It really doesn't matter. I'm thinking this side over here. Why? Why do I say that? Because there's more from where this piece of rust comes out here and where it goes in back through the bracelet. There's more of it there. There's not very much here. So it just seems to me like there's going to be a little bit more space and play to get in there. So again, this is where we started weaving at the top. Oh, for those who watch my videos, when you see me, just to maintain orientation, what's the top, where I started weaving, where I ended, and all that kind of stuff, the male end, I always have the male end at the top where I'll weave. There's your tip. When you set up your jig, always, it doesn't have to be the male. It could be the female, but whichever way you decide to do it, always do it the same way. It cuts down on potential confusion if you always start your bracelet with that same end, whether it be male or female. Makes sense? In my case, I just choose to put the male at the top. The male end here and the female end here. So when you watch one of my videos, if you know that, and you see me holding the bracelet weaving, you can automatically look at it and go, okay, this is where he started at the male end, and he's weaving this way. Even though I'm flipping and flopping, you can always, that's just a tip for you watching my videos. But we're going to go down here to the bottom, and I'm going to come up under these same two pieces that we back wove all this under. These two pieces on this side. Now, I'm going to see if I can get it through here. It's going to be tight. Cover me. I'm going in. Okay, I got it. You can see the tip of it come through. I got it through there. Now, most likely, I'm not going to be able to push and then pull this through. I'm going to have to. You can kind of work it. Now, what I'm going to do, this is what I did. You can't see me do this because the camera's not angled. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bracelet, I'm going to bend this piece back right here, and I'm going to take the end of this, and I'm going to put it on the edge of my desk, right, like this. And I'm going to take this bracelet, and I'm going to push it, and it's going to force that through there. But you got to be careful that you don't stab your fingers or bend your fid. Now, these are brass. They will bend. Not so much these thick ones, but sometimes when I'm doing it with one of these things, I got to be careful. But if you have the American bought ones that you bought from an American Paracord supply place or off of Amazon, most likely they're made out of stainless steel, and they probably are not going to bend. But just be careful. All you got to do is, when you put it on there and you start putting pressure on it, just make sure you don't have it all tilted at a crazy angle. Make sure you have it plumb, flush, and level, and it'll go through there. And once you get it through, you can usually grab enough of the end of it and you can pull it through. If not, you can do something. I'm going to do this off the camera on the edge of my desk. If you listen, you might hear it going through. You hear that? That is not me. I promise. It was a chair. Many of you catch the reference. See? Now, I may be able to pull that through because there's not very much left to get through. I may be able to get it through. If not, if you can't get it through, you can do this. It's not the best method, but it does work. You can see these little nicks on the sides of my. Grab a hold of it with a pair of pliers that have no teeth on them. Don't use pliers that have serrated teeth. And just kind of twist it. Twist the bracelet, twist it as you're pulling, but do it away from you. That way you don't impale yourself, you know. But do it away from yourself. But I might be able to do this with my hands. Usually, if I can get enough through, I can get a good enough grip. See. Okay, now that was probably the hardest part. Now all we're going to do is we're going to pull our slack through. Leave you a little bit of a tail. About the same amount as the rest of them. Right, now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. And I've noticed this. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can see it a little bit. See how this piece of orange right here seems shorter than this piece? Every time I do one of these bracelets, they seem off. See, it's the blue in this case. That's just the way they turn out. I hadn't quite discovered. See, this one's that way too. That piece of black. I hadn't quite figured out what I'm doing. Something in my tension is not correct, and it's causing it to be off like that. But, you know, to the untrained eye, nobody would notice that. I do, though, because I look at things like that. Now, what I'm going to do, all we're going to do is we're going to go through. Right there, it goes through pretty quick. I mean, pretty easily, no problem. Just pull it through. Again, make sure we don't have no twist in it as you pull. Right. Hold it and pull it. Get that little bit of slack out right there.
All I'm going to do is, like I said in the last one, run it out so you don't have any twists in it. Because you're going to see that gray piece of cord, or in this case, this piece of rust. You're going to see it. And you don't want the grain of that cord to be twisted going up through there. So you want to keep it straight. So you'll take it, run your finger out, following that grain, and you can see if it gets twisted. Now, you can't see it on camera, but you see how I'm rotating it one way here and I'm rotating it the other way here. You can see that cord's twisted. I can. Camera can't see it, but I can. You see how it looks twisted? You straighten it back out. When you do this, you just take it, you run it out, following it with your eye, making sure it's not twisted. And then when you get to the end, you just fold it right back over itself and come right back up. And all we're going to do is, we're not running it under thing, we're going all the way up, and we're going right through the top in between them two hitches right there. Now, that's kind of a tight fit. You see that? We'll just push it through. And when you go to pull out your slat, make sure, even though we just ran it out and got the twist out, make sure it doesn't have any twists in it. When you lay it down here like this and look at it, look at the grain, the thread, the grain of those threads running up through there. Make sure it's not twisted. You can tilt it up however you need to do. You know, look straight down at it or look at it at an angle. You know what I'm saying? Look at it like an angle so you can see all the way up it, or look straight down at it. Either way, whichever works best for you, just look at it, make sure it's not got any twists in it. All right? And when you get here, you're going to try to pull it a little tight. Not so tight that it does that. All right? Now, we're going to flip it over. And all we're going to do is back weave it up under. Right? Now, remember when I said I was putting these so they were coming out up here? Now they're coming out here. One of the other reasons I was I'm going to try it this way is so that this will get back woven and come out right here next to one of these, whichever side I do it on, which most likely is going to be the side toward me right here. Does that make sense? Again, make sure we don't have the twist in it. It's probably going to be a tight fit because I'm going to run up under. What I'm going to actually do, just so we see this. This comes into play every now and then. I'm not sure if it'll matter on this one, but just in case, let me zoom in so you can see this. I've talked about this in a few videos. But there's some of these weaves and this stitching and some of this that if you try to do this back weaving, where you take that thread and you go up under there, if you do it under that very first piece that is possible to go up under, and you go to pull it, once you get under and you pull it tight, what will happen is potentially it can cause the front to fall down in the crack, if you will, and you won't see it. It won't look right. Now, I don't think it would happen on this one, but to be sure, we're not going to go up under that first piece of rust. We're going to go over it and then under the pieces of orange, and then 1, 2, 3, and come out right next to this piece. Does that make sense? And it's going to be a tight fit, so watch me struggle. Got it under there. You can see the tip of it. Yeah, that was pretty tight. Let me get over here. I'm going to do this on the edge of my desk again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that buckle. I'm going to bend it back. That way I can get to this. Now, maybe I can pull that through. I don't know. We'll see. If not, I'll get my pliers on it. See? See how there's a twist in it right there? Before I pull it and get that twist in there and get it down there where you can't get it out, I'm gonna twist it right here with my hand. And that will Unless it's so tight that it's not, that'll work. That'll get that twist out. That way when it pulls through, it'll lay relatively as flat as possible. All right, now we got that. Now we're going to cut the end of this. We're done with this. If that piece is long enough and you want to save it, go right ahead. I don't think, it's right at a foot. I don't know what I'd use it for. I've got plenty of scrap. I was going through my scrap buckets the other day. I was making some keychains. Somebody asked me, there's a charity type thing, that's all I'll say. And I said, yeah, best thing for me to do is just make you a bunch of keychains. I said, I'll give you a couple of bracelets, but mine are custom fit, so, you know, somebody may not want one that's not going to fit them. I said, keychain will fit anybody. Okay, now, on this one, same thing. We're going to do the stitching. And this stitching is pretty simple. We're going to do the goldenrod. I already got my piece set up. Right? Now, what I'm going to do, top of the bracelet, male slide, male buckle, top of the bracelet. What we're going to actually do, if we look, make sure I'm going to tell you this right. Okay, the same place where we went through doing the stitching on this side and the stitching on this side, we're going to go through the bracelet in the same place. From the back through the bracelet to the front in the same place, in between these pieces of orange. But when you do it, let me make sure I'm going to say this right, because I've done this once or twice and it didn't turn out. What I'm going to do, the way I've been doing it, when I go through this bracelet, I want to come out on this side of this piece of this center spine. I want to come out on this side, not this side. Now, you can come out on either side. It doesn't matter. But I recommend whichever side you're going to do, when you go to anchor this piece of cord, anchor it on the side that you're going to go through and come out on. Does that make sense? Hopefully, I'll show you. Watch what I'm about to do, and you'll see what I'm talking about. I want to come out on this side. So, I'm going to anchor it on this side of the bracelet, where this piece is. It doesn't have to be where this piece is. It just happens to be. Maybe I should have chose the other side, but I'm going to do it this way. And since I got this piece and this piece, I'm going to go up under where those two are coming out. But the thing is, I only have to go up under this first piece of orange and this piece of rust, and it come out right here, because I'm going to go down through there. Make sense? I'll show you. Let me get it through there and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'll bend my bracelet back a little bit. Maybe I can go through with this side. It might be a little easier. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's going to work. Trying to make sure I haven't poked through my cord. That's why I keep angling it. I'm looking at it. I know you can't see that on camera, but I can. Hold my hand out of the way so when it jams through there, it doesn't poke me. Oh gosh, that's a tight fit. Again, we're going to the edge of the desk. Going to the mattresses. Godfather reference, if anybody catches it. Okay, now that I got it through there, here, let's get this out of the way. Maybe I can pull it through. Yeah, we see that? Okay, now you can see where I went through at. I went through, I started going up under, anchoring it in the same place that this one's coming out and this piece of 550 is coming out. But instead of going all the way up under every one of them, it's coming out just at the bottom, toward back this way of that orange. Why? Because I'm going to run it across. I'm gonna run it across and go through the middle of the bracelet right there. Make sense? But first, as always, we're going to pull all our excess through. And it's already pretty tight, but no matter, forming a good habit, put your thumb up there, put a little pressure on it. That way when you go to pull it, you don't pull it all the way through, and then you have to go back and do that part again, because that can be... So leave you a tail. Now, what we're going to do, find the end of our cord, and all we're going to do is we're going to go through right here in the same place we were going through when we did the other stitching. But when you go through, don't jam it through real fast. Be careful. That way you don't poke a hole in this piece. Because you want to, once you get it through there, I can see it right down through here. I can see the tip of that needle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push it through and I'm going to angle it. Angle it so it'll come out over here on this side. Just be mindful of it. If you look, you can see it's starting to want to poke right there. It's starting to want to poke, but we don't want that. And what you can do is just kind of back it out a little bit. You can take your finger and kind of push this over a little bit. It's not so much here at the top, but once you get going, you can kind of move it out of the way a little bit. We see that? See how it's on this side over here. And we're going to do it. And all we're going to do is come up and go across it and go right back down through the same part. And that's it. I mean, that's all there is to it. Now, again, back here, hold your thumb. Just kind of give it a little tug. Right? And it's going to loosen this up a little bit. So as we go and we wrap around it, you're going to pull the slack this way into that piece. You'll start seeing maybe as we do each one of these wraps and we work our way down, if there's any excessive slack, it's going to start building up. But we don't want it that way. Just be mindful and look at that. Now, all we're going to do, we'll come out over here on this side. We're just going to go across the top and go right back down through in the same spot. Be careful you don't run the needle through that piece of micro cord you got, or any of the other cords. See, just like before, it goes right through there. It just takes the time to do it. Make sure you get your twist out. See, when you get it there, just kind of give it a little duck, duck, duck. That's it. Now, if you look, some of these pieces, if you look at this one I've done, most of these pieces are the gold right here in the middle. Most of them are running straight across. Okay, I'll say this. I've done quite a few sanctified covenants with this entire piece being one piece of 550. Where you start, and every weave you wrap it up and over. And I've noticed, and it's just the nature of it. I see some people and they do it perfectly. It looks great. I wish I could do mine that way. But that piece that comes up and around, like you have the regular piece of 550 spine and the same piece, but it's getting wrapped around it every time. That piece that gets wrapped around, a lot of times what will happen when I do this, and maybe when you do it, it sits kind of at an angle. Sometimes it's more pronounced. It may be sitting at this angle. It just depends on the way you wrap it. But sometimes, you know, it may be more pronounced on this wrap than it is on this one. Does that make sense? And that's always drove me nuts. I don't like it that way because it doesn't look neat, clean, right? I want my stuff to look neat and clean, and that drives me nuts. And that's why I don't do a lot of sanctified covenants. But this one, it's pretty easy to get them straight. Now, if you look at some of them, I'll show you this one right here. This one's not that bad. They actually all look pretty good. And they naturally will be, you know, evenly spaced down through here. But most of them are pretty much straight across. As opposed, the gold pieces anyway, right here in this middle. As opposed to being at an angle, either, you know, depending on which way. But they're pretty much straight across. Doesn't take a lot of fighting to get that to do that. With the regular Sanctified covenant, I've noticed it always wants to sit a little angled. And I don't like that. Okay. That's the first one. Now, the second one is the same thing. All we're going to do, I'll show you the back so you can see. We went through it between the two, and we come out between the same two. All we're going to do now is just run it down to the next section and go through. Do it again. See what I'm saying? The pieces of orange, the accent, that's the ones we're going through. So we come out here, we're just going to go down to where these next two pieces of orange meet each other, and we're going to go through. And make sure, you know, like I said, we're going to angle that needle to come out over here on this side of it. That way, every one of them, consistency. Now, it's going to be a little tight because this big piece of 550 here, but it'll go through there. And don't jam it through there and poke a hole through your cord. Be mindful. Once you get it through there, you can see it. You're going to look and just kind of angle it. You see that? How I'm angling it? And you can see it. Once you get it past that piece of 550, you can run it through there, no problem. But you got to be careful not to jam it through and poke a hole through that piece of 550. Because if you do, it will be noticeable. Because this piece is not going to get covered up. It's going to be noticeable. You got to be careful. When you get it right here, just right there, we're going to go from one side across and back down through the same place. Mindful that you don't poke through that piece of 550 or this piece of micro, because we're going right through next to it. Now I've noticed this. Here's your little tip. That piece of micro that's running this direction, that we just went from this section to this section, when you run this piece through here, sometimes what will happen is the friction of this needle rubbing against that piece of micro that's going through there, it will push it back out, and you'll have a little bit of slack showing that little piece right there. Does that make sense? Let me see. If it does it, I'll point it out. Nope, not so much. But just be mindful, because it can happen. Once you get it to, once you get it to right here, get that twist out. We want those twists out because they will be noticeable. Right? Do this little tug. Right? And now, again, we're going to go from in between these two pieces of orange, and we're going to drop down to the next two. And again, we're going to angle that piece to get it to come out on this side. You see it? Run it through. Get real snug. All these twists, run them out. Go from this side across that piece of 550 and back down through in the same spot. Mindful you don't poke your needle through anything. Now watch back here. Maybe it'll do that. You see how it's a piece of a little loose right there? Okay, now when I run this through, it's most likely I'm gonna pull that slack out as much as I can. When I run this piece through here, this needle through here, it may pull that piece out. See? Be mindful of that. So when you get over here like this, you can do it a few ways. Before you take all that slack out, get your twist out. Very important. Get that twist out of it. Okay, now when you get to right here, to get the slack out of that one piece, you can either grab it over here where you come through and pull it and get the slack out, or you can pull it this way. And most of the time it will pull all that and get that slack out. That's the way I've been doing it. All right? Get right here and it'll tighten up that piece of yellow that we just read. Right? Now, again, we're going to go from between these two pieces of orange, drop down, in between the next two, angle it to get it to come out on this side. That's it. I mean, that's all this is. And you see, look, watch that piece of rust. You see how it's moving? It's because this back of this needle is poking the back side of that cord. We don't want that. So I'll pull it back toward me a little, or back out a little bit, angle it, and if need be, just kind of push that to the side just a little bit so you can get on that side of it. Because we don't want, it's very important, do not poke this cord. Because you start doing it and you get down here and you jam through it, you're going to see it. And the only way to fix it is undo all of this, the spine piece, and start over with it. So you got to be careful with it. It's not a hard stitch. It's not hard to get it to go through there. You're not having to dig through a knot and grope in the darkness to get through there. But you just have to be patient and not jam it through that piece of 550. Get it right there. Come across it and go right back down through there. Yeah, that piece, that's a little tight right there. Hang on. And pull it through. Twist the cord back here. That's what I'm doing. I'm twisting it to get out that twist. Right. Make sure that piece doesn't have any slack in it that we just ran. You don't have to pull it hard. Just kind of tap, 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 or tug, tug, tug. Whichever way you want to say. I say tap, tap, tap. That sounds better. I'll leave that one. I'll leave that where it is. Right? And that's it. That's all you do. And you just, that's it. Right? Now, I'm gonna go ahead and stitch this one out to the end. When I get down here to the end, I'll come back and I'll show you how I finish it off. We'll cut and burn and all that kind of stuff. And we'll have us a stitched, modified, sanctified covenant. But stick around and we'll finish it off. Okay, Weavers, I'm back. I got it done all the way down except for the, I don't know, last 2, 3, whatever. But I figured I'd come back and show you how to do it. And again, I'll say this. Just like when we were doing this little both side runs of stitching, and you get down here to the end, it's probably going to be a little bit tighter, but it's no problem. But like I said, don't let all this stuff right here confuse you. You just have to move it out of the way and go through same places we've been going through. Right? So, again, bend them out of the way. And we're going to go from between these two pieces of orange down in there to the next one. And again, angling that piece. When you go to pull this, make sure it's not caught up on any of those tails. Alright, and then this one right here, this is something I've done. Okay, so learn from my stupid mistakes. When I ran this through, I wasn't thinking, wasn't paying attention, and the end of this needle snagged one of these pieces of 550, and I went to push it through. When I did, I'm like, why? And it dawned on me, I was snagging one of these. Be careful that you don't do that, because it can, like I said, cause a run, which would pull that cord, and it may actually show on this side. It can happen. So when you go to run back through here, make sure you get all this out of your way, and you can see where that needle is so you don't poke anything. All right? Now, this one right here, what we're going to do here is everything that was back woven on this side, we're going to kind of fold it that way. We're going to part the Red Sea, if you will. See what I'm saying? Everything that was back woven on this side, pull it off to one side. That way you got a gap right there. And you're going to run that cord down through the middle of those. And then you're just going to do like before. Go through those 2 pieces of orange. When you get here, what you can do, because we're going to cut and burn all these, we're going to pull this piece to get it to go down in there, so it potentially, hopefully, it's going to be so far down in there that when we go to put our flame, it's not going to cause that cord to come apart. We're going to cut and burn all this. It's going to be on top of it this way, and that micro cord, we've pulled it so far down in there that it's down, not on this side of the bracelet, but it's, you see what I'm saying? Does that make sense? That way, your cut and burn in the end doesn't affect that piece of micro cord that goes through there. So pull that one. This is going to be the last one. It's the last one. Now, right here, again, what we're going to do here is, instead of just taking where it is and running up under either one of these pieces of orange, I'm actually going to go down toward this buckle, go this direction, and then go back up under both the rust and the orange, whichever side you choose. Guess it really doesn't matter, but I'm gonna try to do it on this side. Bend that buckle out of the way so I can kind of get a straight shot through there. Hopefully this will go through here. Okay, got it under that first piece. Oh, that's tight. That's tight. Yeah, let me do this on the edge of my desk. I'll probably get it. Yeah, I got it. Alright. Now, we'll go cut us a tail. Now, even though I'm about to cut that off and be done with it, I'm still, it's a habit. It's a good habit. Sends you into that. Let it cool for a second. Okay. Smoothing tool, whatever you do, whatever you use to smooth or flatten out your cords, have it at the ready. Okay, now the final thing. Like I said, this edge has a tendency to wanna, if you don't pull it consistent tension, whether the amount of tension and the direction of tension, it'll show on that edge. So you got to be mindful of it. Now, granted, like I've always said, the beginning of a weave and end of the weave never looks exactly like the meat of the weave. So when it looks off right here, that's just the way it is. But look at it on this side. See, it's relatively straight except for right here. And what we're going to do down here is I'm going to try to, it's not going to work very well. Alright, I'm going to I'm going to do this cut and burn right here first. So I'm going to look at the front of it. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reach back here. Since I've got a piece of 550 and then these two pieces of micro cord all in that same, anchored in that same spot, okay, we're going to pull them. Alright. And then this one on this side, I'm going to pull it. Now, I'm gonna cut and burn this one on this side, this single one. I'm gonna do it first. The way I'm gonna do this is I'm gonna hold this up. This come up the other day. I was telling somebody, don't try to cut this thing so close. Leave some hanging. That way you have something to burn, and when it turns to that melted plastic, it flattens itself out and it mushrooms, if you will. And there's enough there for that. There's enough of this cord after you've cut it that there's something that's going to melt, but that it's sticking out far enough that you melt this cord and not the bracelet, right? And since it's already sticking straight up, which is good, but if it's laying down kind of flat, you can take it and pull it back up that way. That way it'll stick up. You go to cut it, make sure there's some length to it. See how much I got right there? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend this back. And I'm going to run my flame up this way so it doesn't get on all this. Slowly until they're ready. I don't know how well you can see it, but it's right there. This one is going to be a little bit bigger because we have more pieces of cord. But the same thing. Kind of get them. Pull them back this way so they'll kind of stand up. And leave some length there. Don't be scared to leave some length. I got that one a little short, but that's okay. It's a little short, but I can work with it. So I'm going to bend it back a little bit. Right. Now that's the easy ones. Down here where it's tricky because there's so many, and you got some on one side and some on the other. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut them. This side, all the cords on one side I'm gonna cut, and then all the cords on the other side I'm gonna cut. But I'm gonna burn them all together. Does that make sense? So you look up here and make sure you're getting. Like we parted the Red Sea a minute ago. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get them and I'm going to pull them back so they'll kind of stand up. I'm going to make sure everything's tight. That one right there, we might want to tighten that one up just a little bit. Which one is that? It's going to be the orange over here on this side. Before I cut anything, I'm going to tighten. I'm going to attempt to tighten this one up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab it with these chain nose pliers, and I'm going to just roll it like this, and it's going to pull it. Yeah, see, it's tightened that piece up just a little bit. That's all I want to do. Okay, now, back to, we're going to separate them again. We're going to pull them up, one side at a time. Pull them up. Leave some length. Alright. And we'll do the other side the same way. Pull them up. Fold them back. That way they'll kind of stand up. And then we go to cut them. Leaving some length. Don't be scared to leave some length. You got to have something to actually burn. I see so many people, new people, and they're scared. They try to cut it as close as they can, and then there's nothing to burn, and they melt the bracelet as opposed to the cords. Right? You see? Leave you some length there. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bracelet, I'm going to bend it like that, and I'm going to come at it. The heat is going to come this way. Make sense? Like this. And I'm going to burn them all. I'm going to kind of work, and just kind of work my way back and forth until they all get melted. And if you sit there and watch it and look at it, they're all going to melt, and they all kind of melt into one big lump of melty plastic. Bam. That's when you want to flatten it. The reason I do it, I've explained this before, the reason I do this, some people say, well, it's all black and burnt. Well, guess what? It's the non-display side. It's not meant to be seen. The display side looks great. Yeah, it's a big black mark, but those are all the ends of those cords are back woven right next to each other. I do that on purpose. And then when I cut and burn them, they all melt together and form one big lump of plastic. That way, one cord can't come out because it's connected to all the other ones. And what are the chances of them all coming out? It's not going to happen. Make sense? But when you get done, let it cool. Run your finger across it. Make sure you don't have any hard edges. It doesn't. Get our tools out of the way. And if this one was being sized to my wrist, I'd put it on trial by fire like I do, but this one's not being sized to my wrist. I made it for my wife, and it's going to be a little bit bigger. I've sized it a little bit bigger for her. It may fit my wrist. I don't know. Here, let's see if I can get it on my wrist. It may fit. It may not. It may be. If it does, it's probably going to be a little tight. Go ahead and give it a little shape. And when you have one of these where there's a lot of thick and that big burn right there, you're going to have to get that bracelet or the buckle and kind of bend it on its shelf so it'll work. Go ahead and give it a little, there you go. That way it'll be a little easier. Let's see if I can get this on. Yeah, I can tell you, I think it's going to be a little tight on my wrist. I can get it on there, it's going to be a little tight though. Yeah, that's a little tight for my purpose. I mean, I could wear it, no problem, but it's a little tighter than I would want it to be. I can't even really get my finger up on it. Most of you have one of these basic knotted tools. I'm not forcing it. That's about where it stops. Right where the tip is coming out on this end. You see? That's about little snug for me. But if you ever find yourself and you make one and it's a little snug like that, all you got to do is find you something. I have my sizing manual. Y'all seen me use it. Solid piece of wood. You can put it on there, or something that's hard. Not a glass or a cup made out of glass because it was shattered. Potentially. But you can put it on there and force it down on there, and it'll stretch out and leave it for a day or two. But let's kind of shape this. Yeah. My wife's wrist is a 6.5 inch wrist. Mine is a 7. So, you see, it's going to fit her. gonna be a little loose on her, which is the way she likes it, but it's a little tight on me. I could force it down on there. Like I said, it was a little tight on my wrist, but there you go. That's pretty good fit. Hopefully she's gonna like it. She said something about this weave the other day. She said, I like that weave. I said, I'll make you one in the fall colors. But there you go. I'll give you one more look at that thing. Let's see. We started right here. It's a stitched, modified, sanctified covenant. Done in rust, fox orange, and goldenrod on a 20mm 3/4 inch brown metal safe lock buckle. But that's it. I appreciate you watching. Got any tutorials you want to see me do? Any specific weaves you want to see me do? If I know how to do it, most likely I'll make a tutorial. If I don't, I'll look into it. Potentially I'll make a video. But leave comments below. Give us a like, give us a share. You know the routine, all that good stuff. But with that, I'm going to end this one like I end them all. Keep it neat, keep it clean, keep it tight. Happy weaving, folks.